blue, if I go back again to where we were just showing you a second ago on just the overall just kind of peak hail potential, lower likelihood, but still potential on the high end to get some of the more significant hail outside of this main risk area. But we're all involved for the most part in that chance that maybe we could have some hailstones in excess of 1.5 inches to 2 inches in size. The tornado risk has been upgraded slightly today. I don't have high confidence in us seeing tornadoes out of this. In saying that, you'll notice when we start looking at significant tornadoes, strong tornadoes, that's not something we see out of this threat. So this is be brief. I mean, anytime we're talking about tornadoes as week away, we want to describe it. I don't think necessarily that is the case, but I'd say a brief tornado risk based on what we're looking at here is a possibility as we go into this afternoon. And then wind, you'll notice that also sitting at a level 2 out of 5. Significant wind, when we're talking about wind gusts in excess of 75 miles per hour, that's not the thinking out of this. So again, the recap here, the tornado risk has been upgraded to a level 2. The wind risk as well. The thing I'm honestly just the most confident in is that hail risk and the potential for us to see some significant large hail out of this. So let's kind of talk, again, the impacts there as we were discussing a moment ago. Again, confidence on this, I would say a little greater on that potential than it was yesterday to maybe see a brief tornado. But this is where we have, I think, the greatest confidence in that potential for some large hail risk. We're going to look at all the different products here in a couple moments related to that. Let's talk hour by hour on timing. And again, we're kind of at the beginning of it here. We're probably kind of peak coverage by, say, around 3 o'clock, continuing to have quite a few showers and thunderstorms as we head into this evening. Myself, our meteorologist, Maggie McCauley, as well as our Gabe Maynor on the case on tracking this today. We'll see if we can get Caleb in the mix down there. But as you'll note here, again, peak coverage of storms probably going to be the next 3 to 4 hours as some of those thunderstorms kind of move into and through the area. So by tomorrow morning, we're back in the low 60s, and I think we hash things as we head toward tomorrow afternoon, kind of a break day with lower 80s out there. Kind of quick look then at the forecast for tomorrow, a lesser coverage of storms as we go into your Tuesday. But then Wednesday, another chance for strong to severe thunderstorms, some that could include a potential, I think a greater potential, maybe even to have tornadoes by then, and less activity the latter part of this week. So let's dig back into what we're dealing with as far as to this afternoon is concerned. And we're going to come back over here, show that significant risk and kind of the wider shot, kind of work our way in here on what we're looking at. So Mama Justice Doppler, again, across the whole country, the most active weather for locations back there out into Arkansas. We look at the severe weather. I'm going to put on the watches. There is a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for locations back out into Arkansas. It's possible that those watches indicating, hey, we could have that kind of weather, could be expanded into our area. They are just obviously barely to the west of Greenville and Clarksdale there. That in effect until 3 p.m. We do expect some expansion into North Mississippi related to this over the course of this afternoon as this line kind of moves into the area. We'll go ahead and check on the satellite perspective here. What I'm looking at on our water vapor zoom, you can kind of see this fast-moving sort of system translating through our area. We'll make this, we'll say a 6-hour loop here. And you can kind of see this bend, how the brown colors kind of bend back around. This we will call a shortwave trough. And so as this kind of kicks through, this kind of shortwave, kind of fast mover is going to bring us the active weather. As it kicks in, we'll really see the coverage of storms increase the next 3 hours, hail, damaging winds, and again, that very limited tornado threat possible out of this as it kicks through. So we do obviously still have a little bit of time before that. So let's kind of walk through some of the components related to this here. So I'm going to bring it back and we'll look at Futurecast in here. Just give me a moment to kind of hack our way into that. A couple different versions of Futurecast that we're going to show. We're going to start with our HRRR Futurecast. And I'm going to pull off the kind of windshield layer that you see there at the bottom. And so let's kind of talk this through. So this is what we expect the same complex of thunderstorms to look like at 3 o'clock. So let's kind of bring it back to right now to start. So again, those thunderstorms, pretty close locations back out there into Arkansas versus where we had it just a moment ago. Let's see, again, Carlisle, we show kind of on the eastern edge. What we're doing right now is kind of verifying positioning on this. So give me a moment on that. And it's running a little farther east than what we were showing you there a moment ago. So we'll bring it back. That shot there. Yeah, it's about a county east of where the HRRR model has it at this time. You see how that positioning's close, but it's a little too far west. And that tends to happen with these storm systems like this that may run just a little bit slower. What we're watching is to see kind of this additional storm development kind of down here, Cleveland, Clarksdale, as well as this kind of main complex there. If we were to see that limited tornado threat, that would end up coming with maybe something kind of popping up ahead of this main cluster. Heavy rainfall, some gusty winds with this as it moves in. See back toward Monroe, Louisiana. Interested to see how this component will work into kind of the main batch here. But because of the way this kind of upper levels are associated with this kind of shortwave trough we're talking about here, that's what kind of helps it to produce some of the hail potential on that. By the way, I'm checking behind the scenes here. We will, again, get to our chat and try to answer some of your questions here in a few minutes. I know we got a lot of folks there that are talking about that. I also see we've got some spam. And just to remind folks there, if you spam, we will ban. That's just kind of the way this works here. So let me find that in my list. Give me a moment to block on chat. Yes. So you'll see that kind of pop off there here in a second. If you spam, we will ban. It's that simple on this. By the way, a new discussion with the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma. We talked about this the other day, and I'll kind of bring up one of these because I don't think they have the new graphic out for this yet, but we'll be able to kind of show you the smaller one. This issue just a second ago, talking about where things probably go in the next little bit. Again, Storm Prediction Center, that's the arm of the government that puts out the watches that we see. And you'll notice that counties in blue here, as we talked about just a moment ago, risk of hail, locally damaging wind gusts continues across this watch and will spread eastward into Mississippi. Likelihood is that we'll see an additional severe thunderstorm watch for the folks in that darker blue. So let's talk about what they're saying. Cluster of storms continues tracking eastward central Arkansas. A low level of moisture continues to stream northward that will help produce larger hail, locally damaging gusts. With time, storms will continue to spread eastward in northern Mississippi. Expect the increasing everything go along with this will produce continued risk for large hail damaging wind gusts. While timing is uncertain, the downstream watch may eventually be needed. You know, one interesting thing that I find from that discussion, I'm not convinced on the tornado threat for tonight and this afternoon. It's not impossible, but these kind of thunderstorms, while a brief tornado is not impossible, they're much more likely to produce large hail. So again, those are the spots that the government and the Storm Prediction Center is looking at and kind of concentrated on. As we kind of bring things back in, I clicked off of the right thing there, so let's kind of bring it back here. And kind of look at this. Let's kind of walk hour by hour then through the future cast here. So it shows by 3 o'clock, again, that big cluster. I don't see a lot on this. You know, the only one on this they start saying, well, that's interesting, and who knows, maybe that could spin something up. So this one shows back toward Grenada, and even then, I'm not impressed by what I'm looking at there. Maybe a couple of these that have more rotation. That one that kind of moves there from Oxford to Tupelo would have a lot of rotation, but I think that's more hail-producing rotation. This is the kind of day where we get tornado warnings, but maybe we don't get tornado touchdowns. I know that might be an interesting distinction to kind of point on there, but that's what I'm hopeful that we get. That maybe we get some tornado warnings, but we're much more likely to get large hail. I hope we get neither. But that's just kind of my initial thought looking at that then again on this latest output of the HRRR, because the way that one tracks there, that's probably some big hail with that going there into Lamar County, Alabama. And into this evening, we do have our frontal boundary lifting in. And so even 9 to 10 o'clock, there'll probably be some thunderstorms producing hail. And then we kind of turn the corner and we start really concentrating on Wednesday's chance that could include some severe weather. We're going to look at our strike model here. This, again, similar timing to what we were looking at just a moment ago there. it is a little farther east on its positioning. I say that, that's an hour from now. Let's go ahead and get it back to where it needs to be. So our strike model running similar, a little fast. So the average between the two is probably the more reasonable average. Let's just double check, make sure we haven't done any model editing. I'm going to take this back, get this closer to where reality is at this point, right about there. Okay. So on our strike model, has that, again, that cluster very well advertised, moving eastward, large hail out of similar locations, what we were talking about just a moment ago there. Clear that off. And then, yeah, I mean, that's similar timing, 4 to 5 to 6 o'clock. You have that pretty that corridor there we're looking at from south of Corinth to really north of Columbus, where models are very clear that this will produce sporadic large hail, damaging winds. Interested to see that it has that same, well, make sure that's not, that is, yeah, that's our strike model. It's uncanny just how almost exactly the same it is on that same corridor for large hail, that one rotating thunderstorm that if it prompts tornado warnings is probably much more effective at producing large hail. And then again, sporadic large hail still out of some of these, even 8:30, 9 o'clock this evening, a possibility there. By 11 o'clock, that's all out of here. So takeaway on that, let's look at our triple threat. And actually, we're going to look at rotation, storm rotation, a couple of different ways. So UH, give me a moment to pull up what we call our storm rotation. So I get an idea on that. I'll try this here. There's a couple of these I'm looking at. I want to make sure we got the right one. Yeah, that's the one I want. Okay. So this will look at the storm rotation with these thunderstorms. And what we look for on this is when the red lines kind of connect hour to hour, that's storm rotation that catches our interest. And notice there's a couple out here that do as we head toward this afternoon. And I think the positioning on this, I think this is slow. So I'm just going to come out and say, I think that's a little slow. If you're willing to stick with me for a second, I'll kind of adjust these all eastward to kind of get closer. Let's say 0.2 of a degree of longitude eastward. Adjust that to kind of make it all line up. And there we go. That's probably closer on positioning and timing. Might even still be a little bit slow. We're going to make sure that this goes the next 12 hours. So we can really kind of adjust it. Okay. So as we go through, say, now to 3 p.m., you can see how we do have that one up closer here to the Tennessee state line, Hernando, South Haven. It's kind of embedded in a bunch of thunderstorms, but that's one pretty impressive little hailer. And I think there's another one back toward Marianna, Arkansas. So I think this is slow on its positioning there, having that at 3 p.m., but models have slowed down over the last 12 hours with this system, so that remains to be seen. So these stripes of rotation, where again, it's not impossible that one of these tries to prompt a tornado warning or produce a tornado, but I would say much, much more likely that these are going to be hail-producing thunderstorms as they roll toward the east. Before we go any further, because of the nature of this, I just want to make sure that you guys have signed up for Weather Call. It is a phone alert system that lets you know if, you know, we're going to be tracking this, going to be talking about this, all that's great. But if you're doing life, if you're at work, this phone alert system will let you know, hey, if something bad is going on. While our app does alerts, we will have tornado pushes. We will talk about all that kind of stuff on there. It's important to note that, you know, phone calls are disruptive. That's why we recommend Weather Call. If you don't want to go right now and sign up for it, take a screenshot of it. You know, you can hit, you know, the open, unopen button there. I guess that the home button on the side there at the same time as you hit, you know, that volume up, and that'll take a screenshot. Take a screenshot of this, at least look into it, read about it. It's an alert that will make sure that, you know, you have what it takes, you have the information, you have what it takes to stay safe in the case of severe weather. When we look at storm rotation here, though, that will continue to, show that these are rotating thunderstorms, and I think hail's the main factor that they're seeing. But notice how we do have a couple of these that do have some stripes that connect hour to hour, but I'll tell you our strongest rotation on these, just from experience, typically is going to be hail-producing thunderstorms with this angle in this setup. Brief tornadoes are possible, but I think this rotation tells us where the biggest hail kind of tracks will also go. We'll look at triple threat with that here in a minute. But yeah, some spots where we can have those even 6 to 7 p.m. I'm zoomed in fairly close because most of these don't have that rotation, don't have much of a tornado threat there. We're going to look at that Yazoo City storm a little closer here in a minute. But just the overall angle on this, I mean, even a few of these still possibly producing a little bit of hail, even to practically midnight tonight. Let's go wider, because one of the things that's interesting about this Yazoo City storm down here, Rolling Fork, is it's kind of all by itself. And this one does look more like it could be one that tries to produce a tornado. And I know obviously folks in Rolling Fork, Yazoo City, you've had your fair share, not that we all haven't over the last, decade, 20 years. But some of those storms, I think possibly still rotating in a way that could produce a tornado, because that's where that front was. And any storms that kind of get attached to a front, we worry about some extra rotation producing that as well. So before we go any further, again, I know that people pick this up halfway through. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. I want to give you kind of our overall severe weather threats for today, and then we're going to look at our triple threat, which is going to have more of the hail potential on that here in just a moment for you. So as we look at that here, again, the tornado threat, not impossible to see a brief tornado. We're not likely to see strong or long-lived tornadoes. Not out of most of this. I'm interested that Yazoo City storm's a little interesting, so I'm going to look at triple threat with that here in a minute, which will be our strike model, and see how it is analyzing that here in a moment. A few strong wind gusts possible out of this. I think the hail threat is significant. Some hail in excess, and not just 1.5 inches, but possibly in excess of 2 inches in size. And then locally heavy rainfall, again, possible out of the strongest of these as well. Those are our kind of, for the folks kind of joining us late, the overall sort of headlines here. Let's pull up our triple threat. Again, an exclusive that you'll see only here on Mississippi Live. No one else anywhere has this. And so one of the benefits to kind of watching us and what we talk about here. So looking at triple threat, this is a different model. This is our strike model. And again, another exclusive here to Mississippi Live. And I'm going to make sure that I have our model is tuned in. Notice it's not as impressed on some of the rotation on this. And again, I think the positioning, as we talked about a minute ago, I think the positioning is a little bit off. I think this is a little too far east. So if you don't mind, I'm going to adjust this back to the west just a little bit. I think that's more reasonable, about 0.3 of a degree. I'm going to have to go in here and adjust all these back. So that's going to take me just a moment to do that. Again, this allows us to see not just storm rotation, but also peak hail potential, strong damaging wind potential, as well as obviously that rotation, all on the same graphic. Again, something you'll see only here on Mississippi Live. Okay, now we've made that adjustment, kind of calibrated things. First thing I notice on this, and I'm going to change this back to where this is next 12 hours. So there, that's closer on the position. It has some rotation. I mean, if I bring it in, the rotation is there. It's just not as bright on here. Our strike model tends to be less aggressive on rotation than the HRRR model is. And these model differences, and the reason I bring these up, they're really kind of important to understand the biases on these, to understand what they're capable of. By the way, the lines you see here represent kind of where the radar, the futurecast would show, and shows again this southernmost storm is the one that continues to try to produce the rotation. But one of the things I find interesting is sometimes when you have that rotation kind of moving more from west to east, or kind of west-northwest to east-southeast, sometimes it is the flare-ups of rotation aren't quite as strong. But you'll notice how that starts getting a bit stronger for the fact we have a couple of these showing that rotation, like that one we show there, getting closer to Tupelo, Okolona. There, I think similar track to what we were looking at a moment ago there, and the rotation picking up more. And notice that's when it starts kicking out some bigger hail as well. So again, there is that limited chance that maybe this could try to produce a brief tornado with this. But this sort of setup, more often than not, is more effective at producing large hail. And so don't get attached to the exact position on where it puts some of these rotation tracks or these hailed tracks. The position will fluctuate a little bit, model run to model run. What I look at on this to try to figure out what exactly is this capable of doing is kind of the intensity. And the fact that we have some of these hail stripes where we have some of the darker purples, and we have tweaked the color scale on here. I think it's a better color scale, but we show the darker purples there on our hail track. That's where, again, we're more likely to see that 1.5 to 2 inch size hail. It's not everybody, but there will be probably one thunderstorm that drops golf ball or larger hail this afternoon. Again, our friends at True Shield Roofing, they, when that is the case, have a $100 gift card from Walmart, the largest hailstone submitted using the Mississippi Live Weather app. But as you can see here, there will be some of that hail. There will be some of those rotating storms. And by midnight, it all should basically be out of here. But what I see is pretty clear cut. A couple of thunderstorms on the southern end of this big complex out in Arkansas will probably have hail in excess of 1.5 to 2 inches. Could have some rotation, might briefly try to produce a tornado. That's what I gather out of looking at triple threat. Now, at the risk of causing some confusion, one of the other things that we have to talk about here for a moment, 95 hours, is the fact that we're going to have more severe thunderstorms later this week. If I show you the risk area for our Wednesday, everybody included in that risk area for Wednesday, and this is more likely, I would say, to have a tornado risk with it as well. We don't do a significant severe threat at this stage out. They have not put one of those elevated risk areas on there, and there is no risk area for your Tuesday, as you can see here for us. There is back to the west. But the severe risk area for Wednesday includes damaging winds and possibly tornadoes as well. So that's where we're going to bring triple threat back here. We're going to look more at the long range. So unfortunately, one of the problems with triple threat is, one of the benefits of triple threat is that it shows you, your accumulated risk over the course of a few days. So this is going to taint what comes through on Wednesday. By that I mean it's going to be more difficult to see Wednesday's activity by the time it kind of goes on here. But you can see that thunderstorms Wednesday will move through. And that particular projection does not have them overly impressive. You can see most of the rotation I had on here probably comes from what we have out there this afternoon and tonight. But if I get rid of the hail and I go back here to the wind, you'll notice that is primarily kicked out with the line. See on triple threat here as that kind of kicks through. Again, it's fairly light blue. It might not be super easy to see depending on the contrast out there, but I think the wind threat more likely out of our thunderstorm complex on Wednesday. There's still a lot of questions with that. I'd say a slightly greater tornado and wind threat going along with that one, probably a lesser hail threat than what we have on Monday, what we have today on this. So that is triple threat. Again, something you'll see only here on Mississippi Live, which kind of allows us to look at all of your different accumulated threats for active weather. And to give you some confidence level, our Storm Finder is something that, again, shows where storms are the most likely, kind of, again, an accumulated threat there to give you an idea. And so clearly, as you can see, jumping ahead toward this afternoon, that threat, while there's still chances for storms to develop back out in Arkansas, that accumulated threat most significant over us with a lot of lightning. Again, the big hail, maybe a limited tornado threat with that. Some rumbles continue into tonight, but you can see certainly that complex is where the most significant impacts will be. For tomorrow, more active weather back out into Arkansas, mainly to the northwest of us, might clip the northwest part of the state up around Hernando, Memphis area, Senatobia by late tomorrow night. And then as we go into your Wednesday, that chance shifts more toward us. Again, starts west of us, but into your Wednesday evening. And again, I think the positioning on this, something that will be adjusted over the next couple of days. Our chances for active and severe weather. This shows primarily south of us Wednesday late into early Thursday morning. I think there's still some questions, but because what this has is this particular projection has our main system down here. You can see kind of the way in which things are sort of wrapping around behind this. You can see that sort of wrapping around there. If that's even a little bit farther north, and it very well could be, we find ourselves more toward the center of those that risk there. So timing on that, still a bit of a question. Exact positioning on the system, bit of a question. Anytime it's a question, that's a good thing. We don't. Obvious is not a good thing when we talk about severe weather. Obvious usually means we've got some real issues. But after this, by Thursday, this is all on out of here. Hopefully that answers some of that. So again, giving you an overview here of what to expect this evening. Our severe weather risk for this afternoon and evening really picks up over the course of the next couple of hours here. As you'll note, we're looking at around 50% on that coverage of storms at 3 p.m., 30% by 6 p.m., 40% as we look toward 9 p.m. And hail, the main most likely impact. Some rotation on a few of these thunderstorms is a possibility, and that's where a brief tornado risk could come into play with this. We're going to show the areas involved in this in a moment, but again, I'm not particularly confident on the tornado threat out of this. These are going to be vigorously rotating thunderstorms, but this setup more often than not emphasizes hail more than really any of the other factors, which is why in the last couple of days here in the Room Weather Center, that's been our primary focus. Let's show the severe risk areas again. This is Wednesday, but if we bring it back to today, you'll notice everybody involved in this level 2 out of 5 severe weather risk. And that is, again, primarily for hail and large hail, where you see in blue here, locations where you could see large hail in excess of 2 inches in size. And so that includes almost all locations that we do cover, and all locations at least with a limited hail threat for today. Damaging winds a possibility. Again, I'm not overly convinced, but sometimes you get downburst winds. If you get a big hail core and that hail core collapses, you can get some strong damaging winds with this. So that's one of the possibilities that we're looking at. And then as we go toward this afternoon and talking the tornado threat, you know, what I think, again, looking at the models a second ago, we're seeing the Storm Prediction Center saying what I'm seeing there is that you get a couple of thunderstorms on the southern fringe of that line, and those thunderstorms are going to be the most likely to maybe have the rotation in just the right spot to try to produce a brief tornado. So again, not a high confidence situation on tornadoes, thankfully. And hopefully that is something that will continue to be the case. We don't want that to be high confidence. We mentioned this a minute ago here, and I think it bears mentioning again that in order to kind of stay ahead of this active weather, we recommend you download, you get Weather Call. It is a weather alert system to let you know what kind of severe weather you're contending with here. If it's tornadoes, possible. Again, not our main concern today, in my opinion. I think hail is. Then it'll call you if a tornado warning is issued. It'll call you back if it's been confirmed. It'll call you if there's severe thunderstorms moving toward you, and if there is major flooding, kind of like what happened in Texas last year. We'll call flash flood emergency. It'll call you for that. It does come with a cost, because making phone calls still comes with a cost. And so it's a way to support us here in Mississippi Live Weather. It's something that I have had for my family for 2 decades. So I certainly recommend you picking it up for yours. It's the reason I never have to pay attention to whether or not my parents are in danger, whether my wife and children are in danger, because I know Weather Call will call and make sure that they get to their safe place. So pick it up there. And if you have not downloaded the Mississippi Live Weather app, certainly would recommend that is something that you do. You can pick that up by these QR codes that you see there on the screen. It will let you know, again, if there is dangerous weather coming toward you. And when we stream live in there. By the way, True Shield Roofing, one of our partners, if we do get the large hail, you've probably seen that on the graphic here. If we do get large hail, with the largest hailstone sent in using the app that you see there, picture of that, make sure that there's a ruler, but a $100 gift card to Walmart, what they are providing, you know, kind of a way to make a bad situation feel a little less bad, as if you had the biggest hail there. We had our first giveaway last week. Kind of an interesting thing. Never done that before, but at least we're not cheering for hail, but we are thankful that they are willing to support someone who had the worst of it. So share your pictures on there as well. If you don't mind, I'm going to go and pray for us real quick, and then we will shut this down. and kind of move on with this. And we'll be here to bring you cut-ins as necessary. But God, just protect these people, keep us safe from the bad weather today. We trust you. We thank you. Guide us, protect us, and help us to make wise choices. Thank you for this opportunity, for this platform that you've given us, this responsibility that goes along with it. Not something we take lightly. Be with those that are hurting. Be with those that have been hit by bad weather the last week or so, and unfortunately have been killed by it. And protect these people from similar fate today. But help us just to all be smart. In Jesus' name, amen. Before we go, a couple things to keep in mind here that I want to make sure that we do talk about. One of those is, how to kind of prepare before storms kind of move into your area. The way to do that is to, keep your phone charged, keep on hard-soled shoes, gather important documents, at least get within steps of your safe place, evacuate mobile homes. If we're talking about severe weather, tornadoes, those are things to kind of keep in mind before, as we're kind of preparing in advance for what moves in. And then, ways in which you can, help when we get into severe weather. Just make sure that, you call friends and family that are in the path of storms. Maybe text a picture of the storm track. I mentioned a screenshot earlier. That's one way to say, hey, Matt's tracking this. Let people know what's kind of coming toward them. And then, of course, when it is safe, take pictures, send pictures. But I'd always rather not get pictures of active weather and you be safe than we have pictures and risk someone getting hurt. So anyway, there. Let's pop up the chat here for a moment. We're not going to be super duper long on the chat. Appreciate everyone again for watching us, for supporting us here. You can join the conversation on Facebook and YouTube. And you'll notice there, again, we have a lot of sponsors like Room to Room, like True Shield Roofing. These sponsors, I'm going to say their names from time to time. Without them, we could not do this. We could not provide this service. And so that's the reason we're doing it. Now, I see Marcellus mentioning, see everyone at 5 and 6. Tell you right now, we will absolutely be on before 5 and 6 o'clock. We might be on within the hour, honestly, because we expect to continue to have some thunderstorms and severe thunderstorm warnings that will be issued in the next couple of hours here. So it's not at all unreasonable that we're going to have some warnings here fairly soon. If I put on the warnings, you see they do go right there to the Northwest Mississippi state line. So I'll get a storm track on that kind of ahead on its movement. We are going to suspend coverage. One thing I learned the other day is I might still be young in my head, but it'll wear you out to just stay on nonstop for non-severe. We'll be here when it's bad, no question about that. But we're going to go ahead and let the Memphis area take care of this here for a moment. Let me make sure I got this right. I'm going to drag this back. That's going about 40 miles per hour. So we'll track that about 40 miles per hour, and we will take that east to include Hernando and locations. There we are, about 40 miles per hour. Farther east than that. We're going to make this a really long track, so give me just a moment to do that. I'm just going to go 100 miles east, and then I'm going to change the size of the city there to say 2. There we go. And so you can see Olive Branch, we're looking about 158, assuming it doesn't pick up any speed from that 40, and it could end up going a little faster than that 40 miles per hour for you. Germantown 201, Collierville about 213, Grand Junction there about 253. But in the closer term there, Horseshoe Lake at about 117, and again about 140 or so, Hernando and Horn Lake. At South Haven about 144. So we're watching that for you. We'll have updates as necessary. Keep it here for the latest. We appreciate y'all liking, subscribing, and the whole thing over there. Yes, I have suspenders on, but it's just because belts cut me off. I don't like belts. What can I say? I know. James Bishop there with North Mississippi Storm Chasers, both too old for the day and night stuff. Yeah, that is the case. For sure. I'll pull up one of the cameras we do have back there in Northwest Mississippi, and this is how I ended up staying on last time, is because one of the things I have not adjusted to is the fact that we have cameras at the TV station. They don't have cameras, and so we just didn't have the kind of shots that we have. Doesn't look like the reporting station there is showing up, but there's certainly the dark clouds via our Mississippi Department of Transportation camera there with those storms approaching the Mississippi River. And then our camera there in Crenshaw kind of looking back into the storms as well. Still a long ways off, but we'll be watching as we go throughout the afternoon. Again, our next official live broadcast is going to be coming up here at 5 o'clock. We will be on before that in all likelihood here in the Room Weather Center. We have broadcasts also at 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. So we're definitely going to have some more coverage on this as we go throughout the afternoon. Just make sure to have the app handy if you're one of those folks on Facebook or YouTube that follow us. Just make sure you have that. It's something that'll keep you ahead of the storms. All right. Hail main factor. We'll see you a little later. Thank you for your support. See you in a bit.
After a storm, the damage is not always obvious. And if it's not documented correctly, it can cost you. With a decade of experience, we know exactly